Before I call the meeting to order, please rise. You have an invocation from Linda, please.
Yes, if you'll please bow your heads, I will pray for us. Lord, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for giving us the good health and the good weather to gather together to look at the district's activities and finances and to prepare the things that our kids need to be successful. I pray, Lord, that you would bless our teachers, our students, our faculty and staff and administration. Lord, that you would just bless their work and give them strength and courage and good health to continue the job they're doing for our kids. And I pray that the kids would realize the opportunities that they have, Lord, and that they would give it their all to be successful. And Lord, now that we are here to make decisions about our school district and the welfare of our school district, I pray that we would have wisdom, that we would have clarity of thought on the issues, and that we would make good choices, always remembering that the kids are the most important thing. Go with us now. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Go with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Our first item of business is approve the minutes from last month's meeting. I'll entertain a motion and waive the reading of the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes without reading.
Made by Linda.
I'll second.
Second by Ray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Next is recognitions.
First up is our 226 award. Again, Columbia, Missouri ISD's 225 square miles, and so this award is given out to special people that go the extra mile for CBISD. So to introduce tonight, our Director of HRPR, Wendy Tuck.
And our first recipient is from the junior high. I'll let Ms. Losario recognize that one. All right, so our recipient for the 226 award is Ms. Hannah Bernardi. So Ms. Bernardi came on this year as our life skills teacher at the junior high. And what has been said about her from her peers is that she is one of the most kind-hearted teachers, that she loves her students, that she has started the newspaper delivery every morning, bringing smiles to the whole staff, and the coffee delivery on Fridays. And so we get to see so much more of them and build those relationships, and that's due to Ms. Bernardi and her passion for all of our students. So thank you so much.
Great job.
Okay, and our second recipient is going to be from transportation. We'll let Ray come on up and introduce his recipient.
Hi. Our second 226 recipient is Richard Longinati. I've worked with Richard Longinati.
Yeah, Richard.
He's been here 10 years. He was hired as our third mechanic at the time. We were one of the only districts that had 3 master mechanics here. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case now. We only have Richard, which is amazing. We lost our last mechanic. He retired back in the first part of this year. So Richard has been handling 71 vehicles, not including the shop, or not including all our lawnmowers and things like that, which he does take care of everything, weed eaters and all that, but 71 vehicles by himself.
Wow.
Our hours, we start our mornings at 4:30, we end at 6:30, and Richard's here for all of those hours.
Wow.
He just stepped up and done it all. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to find another mechanic, but he's been taking up the slack. And one of the things I can tell you about him, he's a workaholic. In fact, at times we have to tell him that he needs to take a break. Especially when we had this heat, we were worried about the heat in the shop and stuff. It was like, hey, set your clocks, every couple hours at least, come inside, cool off, and take a break. But like I said, that's one of his favorite things to do is to work. As he can tell you, he's just a fantastic guy. One of my favorite people. I've already scheduled my retirement the same day he does. That's just he's a fantastic guy. So if y'all give him a big hand.
Next up, I believe we have campus communications. Is that correct? First up is Wild Peach Elementary. Mrs. McCarthy.
Well, all right. I'm used to being loud.
Oh, there we go.
All right, so huge shout out to Coach Pena. He has been sending the Roughnecks for Roughneck Arrival, and the little guys just absolutely love it. For one thing, they don't know what a roughneck is, so to have a real live roughneck come and help them out of the car or off the bus is just great. Here you can see several of our roughnecks, and that is Coach Guthrie's little boy, Lauren Guthrie. So building a sense of community and a sense of school spirit and community spirit is pretty important. And it starts with us. So we supported our Roughnecks with Spirit Week. We wore camo and hunted the lions. We wore tie-dye and tied up the lions. We wore team clothes and teamed up against the lions. And then, you just can't hide roughneck pride, so we wore maroon and white. It was amazing to see all the kids that participated, and we encouraged participation through Facebook. Parents like to see their kid's picture, as you know, and they'll let you know if you miss their kid. Is there another page?
Yeah.
And then we had our first family engagement event, Grandparents' Day. We had over 270 adults check in, even with Raptor down on the big day of. And here you see Coach Gerbich and his granddaughter, and Kim. And then it's also important to me that we build a sense of citizenship at our school. And 9/11 was Patriot Day, so we had Red, White, and Blue Day. And coming up, we have Veterans Day. And we will have a program even for our youngest. And we did celebrate Freedom Week last week and learned what a Constitution was. So we're building the basics from the ground up at Wild Peach.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. Next up, West Columbia Elementary, Principal Bolton.
All right, I wanted to begin by sharing how we started off our year. The top left-hand corner there is we had our first fire drill, the first Friday of the first week of school, and we ended it with popsicles. So the kids did their fire drill, but then they got rewarded with popsicles. It was a great fun way to end our first full week. And then also wanted to highlight the CHS Roughneck football players coming to greet our students in the morning as well. We have loved that, and the kids do too. Then the next slide, I wanted you to have an insight of what I see every Friday morning when I'm doing our Excellence Awards presentations, because we go grade level to grade level and we recognize one student each week that's exemplifying our pillars of excellence. And so I took a selfie this time of the kids behind me cheering for our Excellence Awards ceremony, because it is absolutely my most favorite thing that I do each week is to see these kids celebrate the successes of their peers. And it's a really big deal because it's just one per grade level each week. And so you can see how excited they are. And that's the ceremony in the bottom right hand corner is just some of our kids that were recognized recently for the Excellence Award. And then I also just wanted to recognize that we had Spirit Week as well. And our spirit is evident everywhere all week long. Homecoming week at West Columbia Elementary School with the Boutonnieres and all the other days as well. And then the last one is also, we had the same parent engagement event as Peach with our grandparent breakfast, and we were super excited, it's the last slide, yeah, to welcome all of our grandparents on campus as well, get to meet their grandchildren at school. As a new grandmother, I appreciated it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bolton. Vice President Junior High, Principal Asterio.
All right. At the junior high, I just kind of wanted to go over some of the things that we've implemented to build that school pride, and also to point out some of the things that our students are doing and our teachers are doing and give them that feedback. So we've brought in bouts of the week. We have started the PTO, so they did the voting for the board today. So we're at third meeting in for PTO, and our bout TV has been a big hit with our students. They're looking forward to who's going to get interviewed and what's going to be the commercial of the week. Just building that school pride and that investment in what's going on around campus. The next slide should be our sports are in full swing. We have a very large amount of pre-athletic students that are getting out there every day, and so we're very proud to start them from 6th grade and build them up through 8th grade. Volleyball is very strong as well, and so they showed up to support the CHS Lady Necks on the junior high night. And then our football teams, they're playing tonight, so we're hoping that they bring home 2 wins tonight. And then finally, on the last page, we had our first pep rally, which was lots of fun. We invited our first responders from around the different communities, and we were really excited that they came from Wild Peach, Brazoria, West Columbia, and they even joined in on our tug of war, so that was exciting. And then they stopped to take a picture with our cheerleaders and dance team, our very first dance team ever at the junior high, so that they got to perform at the first pep rally. And then PBIS is going strong each Friday, so students are still collecting tickets and putting them in for those prizes to win on Fridays for good behavior, whether that is, it's up to the teacher on how they pass those out. So that can be small rewards and then big rewards as well. And then our collaborative learning, so our teachers are still working really hard to make fun learning and making it engaging and an experience where they want to be at school. So that's a lot going on at the junior high.
Thank you. Columbia High School, Principal Kenny.
So first is just kind of an update on the construction that's going on there. The asbestos abatement has been finished in the E building. They are supposed to finish excavating the detention pond by the end of this week. They've rerouted the chilled water lines and actually tied them into existing, so then they could begin the demolition. And they started that already. They also have poured a temporary sidewalk from F to G. So when we get further along in the process, we'll close down one sidewalk and have to move to the other side. So Ms. Bolton talked about the fire drills. We had 2 of them today. I guess they didn't completely untie the fire alarm from the building, and they were tearing it down and set it off a couple times. So we got 2 in today. Next, just some things that are going on in the classroom. Our chemistry, they used Bunsen burners, and first Mr. William modeled, then the students were able to burn and see the difference between using oxygen or no oxygen. Blue flame is when oxygen is present, or the more oxygen, the more blue the flame is. And then we had Ms. Bainey in world geography. The kids created their own civilization and had to meet certain pillars. And they displayed that up in the wall in that wing, so we're seeing the student work displayed out in the hallways, which I really liked as well. Then we're kind of following the theme Spirit Week. We had pep rally that week. We're doing our pep rallies in the evening. Outdoors is a public event since we don't have the gym to do those in. We had really good turnouts the first 2 pep rallies, and the Spirit Week we had the competition between grade levels, and the sophomores won the Spirit Stick. So they were very excited. Then I also wanted to shout out our varsity football team for going out and doing the car rider, bus rider lines. Actually, Ms. Galloway, if you'd share the story about how they switched duties on the students, I'd appreciate that.
Yes.
I got to work last Friday, and if you don't know who Katie Bug is at Barrows, she comes to work with her mother, Miss Juries, every day. And she has a big say in everything that's done at Barrow Elementary. And she said, Miss Galloway, I need to talk to you. Those roughnecks cannot do car rider duty this morning. And I said, why? They're on their way. She said, the last 2 times they've done car rider duty, they put up a big fat 0 on that scoreboard, so we're gonna need to do bus rider duty this morning. I said, okay, you want me to tell them that, or are you gonna tell them that? And she said, you. So I did, and they did bus rider duty, and they put up 14 on Friday. So I think you have some superstition going, so we're gonna keep doing bus rider duty.
And then the last slide, I just want to show you, we're doing the GSL gift exchange. These are some things that our Ag Met class made for visiting teams that we've given away to start the game. So I just wanted to share some of the great work that our kids are doing in the Ag program. We did a floral design to NHS for Needville as well when we hosted them. So those are going very well. It's just nice to display and show off the talents of our students.
Good news. Thank you, sir. Barrow Elementary, Principal Cody.
So we didn't all speak to each other before submitting our pictures, but we all kind of, elementary schools went with the same theme. Ours, we fit on one page. So you can see we have our Spirit Week, we have our Little Roughnecks. Our football players our campus football players are in the top left corner. We have our Spirit Days. Our Spirit Days, we aligned with our campus theme. So our campus theme is Game On. So we had Dress Like a Millionaire to go with Monopoly. We had Battle of the Grade Levels to align with Battleship. Cranium, if you remember the game Cranium, I kind of had to explain it to the kids because they don't really know that game, so they were able to dress like a nerd. So you can see the little boy cannon, Mr. McCracken. We'll miss him when he goes. The bottom right picture. And then Grandparents' Day, you can see some of our grandparents are pictured there. But we haven't seen y'all since the day before school started was our last board meeting. So on here we have first day of school pictures, and then in the center we have our staff picture from convocation. So just to kind of culminate everything that we've done to get our school year started. But it's been a great start to the year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have anybody sign up for City Heard? I don't think so. Sir. Okay. Thank you, Chief. We're going to we have some guests here tonight, so we're going to go down to the first action item first and discuss discussion and possible action to approve resolution designating successor beneficiary to the tax code 313 agreements.
All right. So tonight we have Molly Hanley with us tonight. She is with the O'Hanlon Law Firm that works in conjunction with Moak and Casey for our Chapter 313 agreements.
One extra, but they're going to pass them. Well, thank you all for some time tonight. I've actually come out because the superintendent asked about a possible resolution for the board to consider that would redirect payments that the district would receive directly from companies instead of coming to district, that they get paid to your education foundation. And what we've done is we've actually only done the supplemental payment portion of the agreements. The revenue protection payment would still come to the district to make sure that you are whole, that you don't have any lost tax revenue or any lost revenues to operate the district. It's just that extra money that gets redirected to the foundation. And what's coming around is a 2-page sheet. This was actually prepared by Mo Casey. And back in April, Mo Casey prepared an estimate of what the amounts from each agreement would generate for the school district for this year. And that's that bottom set of numbers there. But as we got to September and we got the actual values from the appraisal district, you'll see there's a significant difference in the amount of money that the school district is getting this year. In April, Mo Casey estimated that would be a total of $1.6 million altogether. The big driver in the difference, because the actual money that's coming in is $308,000, is the Texas Gulf Solar Project. Back in April, the company was intending to be fully operational this year, and when we get down to it, their taxable value is zero. The whole construction process has been delayed by a full year, and that is the big money difference, because when did the original number, we thought we were going to get $155,000 from them, and they're coming out at zero. The second one is the Brazoria County Solar Project. We thought that project would be $200 million based on what the company put for their estimates in April of what their project value would be. When they were finally appraised, they were appraised at $35 million. So when you take those numbers and put them through the formulas, we had thought we'd be collecting $900,000 from them. It's only $22,000 based on the revised $35 million project value. The plus side is, if we look at the backside, is we've got to look ahead for those figures. So, for example, we were able to get some revised numbers from Texas Gulf Solar, where we thought you would be getting that money this year in 2023. If you look at 2024, you're getting the $175,000 next year from that. Unfortunately, we were not able to get any actual values from Brazoria County Solar of what their values would be yet. So we don't have those revised calculations. But when they come in, we'll be able to provide revised numbers to the superintendent and pass them on to you so that you can see what those numbers would look like. Those other agreements, I know you had asked about the split revenue protection payment. We actually only did that on one of the agreements. So those other payments, when they come in, they'll come in fully all at once and won't be divided over 4 years. We only did that 4 years on one of the agreements. So the resolution itself, it's authorized by your agreements. The agreements specifically allow the board to redirect any payments as long as those payments go to someone who supports the school district. Here, obviously, your education foundation meets that requirement. 2, it's completely revocable. So if at any point the board decides, no, we want that money coming straight to us, we just have to have you adopt a new resolution saying all payments come to the district. And although it's 2 pages long, what attorney's firm would do something in 1 sentence when we can do 2 pages, but it basically outlines all the history of the agreements themselves, specifically outlines it's just the supplemental payments that are being redirected, and that those payments would satisfy the requirements as if they had paid you directly, so the company would not be in breach by making those payments to the Education Foundation, if that's the way you choose to vote tonight.
So just so I understand it, so the school portion is the 133,936,
Yes, sir.
and then the foundation be the 174,639? So in April, when they did the estimates, the projected value was what the county came up with?
With the companies themselves, the companies gave us their values. And
Because they were a lot higher than that when they gave the original projections, so.
And so they've actually been backing them down as their construction timelines have shifted. And so even in April, they still thought they were going to have a significant amount of assets in the ground. But as the appraisal districts went out there and gave their final numbers, they were significantly less. But it was the companies who gave us those numbers for the project value.
Can we protest them next year?
Well, I don't know who's on your appraisal board, but you might want to give them a heads up. But yes, they are significantly lower, and obviously the one where it didn't even get operational or built, that was a big kicker. But the Brazoria County Solar coming in at only $35 million is much less. They really thought they had a lot more down in operating than.
So are these amounts the total payments we get, or will there be something?
No, this is just for this year. The next year, there'll be a whole new set of calculations based on their new values. And once we get those numbers, we'll be able to provide you what those look-ahead numbers look like going forward.
Do you remember which company we did that was going to spread their stuff over 4 years?
It is just the Gulf Solar,
The which one?
the Texas Gulf Solar.
The one that's not on there yet?
Yeah, the one that's not on there yet.
Okay. So Missouri West and Missouri County Solar, that's all they'll be paying us is that amount?
No, we anticipate that Brazoria County Solar's values will go up significantly, and when the projects go up, that's what triggers that revenue protection payment. Because when you run your template, the comptroller, we still use that look back feature. Even though you're all on current finance, we still look back. And when you look back, we only see $35 million on the roll, but there's actually $200 million on the roll. That impact is what results in the revenue protection payment.
Okay,
So we expect that there is a secondary one coming once those values
If the
get.
project's gone. Gotcha.
When, if.
So the project's not completely.
It's not completely built, right? That is what
that
we've
makes
been
more
told.
sense,
Yes, so.
okay.
So it is our current understanding from the company, they're still building out, and when they build it out, that will trigger that secondary revenue protection payment. And that should capture that other $400,000 that's not on this one for them.
Okay, that's what I was confused with. And then when I look at the other side, if Texas Gulf Solar completes this year and comes online, assuming the value that they say,
If you go,
next year, what would we be looking at for the school?
so if you go across column, the very last column K,
Okay,
or excuse me,
Jay?
J, it's that 175,329. Those J payments are the payments to the school district. And it's the combination of revenue protection payment, and then after that, those would be those directed payments, those supplemental payments, and that would be, unless you take action to revoke this resolution, those would go to the Education Foundation. So it'd be another 150 to the Education Foundation.
Another how much?
Well, it's 175 for revenue protection, that would go directly to the school district.
School district. Yeah.
And then the remaining payments, which come to about 315, so it's about 140. 140 would come directly to the school district. My math is.
And the foundation would be the 137? If it
Yes.
stayed that way?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, comments? Is there a resolution I need to read, or can I just?
The resolution, and we took the dates in for you, and then, so.
I don't have to read that whole thing, do I? for the
No,
motion?
sir. It would just be the title I would recommend.
Okay.
So just the highlighted part there at the top.
I make a motion to approve the resolution designating successor beneficiaries of payments in agreement for limitations on appraised value of property for school district maintenance and operating taxes. Number 1399 Brazoria West Solar, number 1429 Texas Gulf Solar 1, and number 1485 Brazoria County Solar.
Second.
Second by Becky, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
You're abstaining?
Yes.
Okay. That motion carries.
You want to sign this one and take this one with you?
That would be great, and I can leave one here that you can sign and
Perfect.
save into the record.
Okay.
Here's your original copy of this too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for moving me to the front. Not necessary, but
No.
it
Thank
is
you so
still
much.
bright out. I love driving home in the light.
Molly, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so very
coming.
much.
Appreciate you.
These payments, is this collected like we do normal taxes through the county?
No, they come directly to you, but it's on the same timeline as your taxes. So
Okay,
they're
so they'll make
due,
a check directly to,
one will be to the foundation and one will be to the school district. And the invoices will be going out by November 1st to the companies. Okay,
thank you.
thank you very much.
Hey, drive safe.
Thank you so much.
So now we're going to go back to reports.
Yes.
Okay. First report is the maintenance report. Mr. Williams.
Well, Mr. Kenny don't know, but he's gonna do the maintenance report from here on out. All right. No, just I guess now to piggyback off what he mentioned about the demolition over here, in today's OAC meeting, everything seems to be on projected timelines. A few little workarounds that we're dealing with, such as you'll notice that the D building itself in the lab skills area is still standing. There's just some water lines that feed other buildings that we have to keep active. So in the meantime, we're trying to find some reroute details on that so that we can keep those other buildings active during the school hours, then tear this one down. So you'll see that kind of standing up for just a little, excuse me, just a little bit longer until that project is taken down. Really, that's it. He done mentioned everything that I was already going to say. The only other thing that I have to bring to the table is just I got to apologize to everybody. I kind of made a mistake. You know, those 2 units that we put on top of Lab Skills spring break a year or so ago, my intention was to keep those. We've already got them taken off to put on this building when the time comes. And somehow or another, my superimposed numbers, I don't really know, but those units are not going to fit here. Like I initially told you guys we were going to be, what we're going to be doing with it. So with that being said, whenever the time comes for new equipment here, we'll burn that bridge when we get there. But the ones that I saved for this weren't going to work. They're just the wrong size.
You're still saving them, all right?
Still saving them because they're
They'll fit on other campuses or somewhere else, or
potentially.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a size issue, right?
Right. It's a tonnage capacity. Yeah, the voltage and amps and electrical, gas, all that stuff, everything else is active and the same. It was just the capacity. Even the 2 of them to combine wouldn't be big enough for this room.
Wow.
So I made a miscalculation or the nomenclature of the model and serial number, just something threw me off, and I'm going to say I made the assumption they were the same size when I was incorrect. So that's the only thing bad news I got to bring to you.
Question, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a pipe break going in over there.
Yes.
Were y'all able to fix down there? You were scrambling that night trying to do some kind of repair with the water still going and stuff?
We did. That is that particular pipe is kind of a concrete-based pipe. And with all the drought and everything that we've experienced over this past summer, ground shift, and it cracked. It was underneath that driveway that leads up to the rear gate. They had to bust out some of the slab to get down to it, but it was just a fracture all the way around. They were able to put what they call a Band-Aid. It's just it's a massive clamp to kind of hold it tight and keep it from leaking any further.
Is that something that will be changed out during the project, or?
Yes, we have discussed that, and the engineers are putting together a plan on that to get rid of that concrete-based pipe and go with that C900, that blue pipe that you see stretched out on the highways like during all this project.
Good, okay.
It's dirty, it's more durable, more sturdy, it has a tendency to flex, whereas the concrete would just crack, and even slip joints or these only 3 inches slip together, where those is 6 and 9 or something like that. So, yes, that is in the works, we just don't have any finite details on it.
That's fine, I was just hoping that wasn't
No,
a permanent fix long term. If we do a night school and have that over there.
No, absolutely not. That's too problematic.
Yeah. And then the last update on Wild Peach, as far as any hearing, is still looking for Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Yeah, we're still projected out there. Don't know any details yet, just because they're still waiting for the manufacturer to get the materials to them.
I haven't heard anything on ship dates or anything like that from them.
Not yet, but he said that we're still on the list, it's still coming, it's just a slow process. Okay. But once I do know something, then I'll happy to share that information.
I know we're building something at the phone company, closing a couple things, and it took us almost 100 days to get the metal and stuff we ordered. So
apparently they're experiencing the same issue.
Just didn't know, but they were able to give us, after about 2 weeks, the estimated date when we get it, so I didn't know if they was able to do that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, we haven't heard an estimated ship date yet, but he's pretty confident that it can be before the end of the school, before the end of the 2023 year, Christmas break.
Justin, I'll remind you of one thing that you approached me about was your work vehicles.
Yeah, just so that you're aware, some of our district vehicles are 20 years old, lots of miles on them. One of them in particular is spending more time in the mechanic shop. Richard's going to testify to it if he's still here. He spends more time working on that thing than he does on the streets. And so there's another one that's trailing right behind it that's
So specifically, you're talking about the trucks that each of your workers drive to have the tool beds and all that.
correct. So I don't feel the need to have the heavy-duty diesels. We don't, haul big dozers and backhoes and stuff around. So I mean, I think a little 3/4 ton pickup with those utility beds would probably be just sufficient. Maybe get one diesel when the time comes for the big tractor and stuff to haul around, scissor lifts, things like that. But there's no need to, haul the farm across town.
Are all of those the same year model?
2 of them are O2s and 2 of them are O4s, if I remember correctly.
You have 4 vehicles?
Yes. Four utility trucks. I apologize, 5.
Are they all single cabs?
Correct. Single cab, bench seats. Truly don't, we don't have a whole group of people riding, so we don't feel the need to have this.
I've seen a couple of them, but I don't know if I've seen all of them.
5, but yeah, 5, I forgot about the painter truck. The other 3 are so-so. I mean, they're not 1 foot in the grave and the other equipment yet.
Well, being that old, they all have to have at least 175,000 miles on them.
And some more, yes.
At the minimum, so.
Yeah. And they're all city miles, so a lot of stop and go back and forth. I mean, every once in a while, the newer ones, they have the diesel regeneration, exhaust thing, and every once in a while, we have to send them down 288, with the hammer down just to try to claw
So you have some diesels?
Yeah, they're all diesel.
All of those are diesel?
Yeah. And we have no need for diesels. Maybe in the past we probably did, but that was before my tenure.
Well, the only difference I'd say is price-wise, I think you get more longevity out of a diesel. What's your opinion on that?
Any farmers in here? I've ran through diesels, I've ran through gasolines. I really don't see the advantage over one or the other than the moment's fuel prices.
Yeah.
You get a little more longevity out of the diesel, but you spend just as much maintaining it and keeping it
I was
running.
gonna say, when those were bought, diesel was about 79 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking at $12,000 to $15,000 more to get a diesel.
Yeah, and I don't see it. I don't see it being justifiable, honestly, in my opinion. But I don't turn wrenches on them like Richard does if he was still here. I know he tells me they're similar, the gasolines. They're not just everything jammed in there. It looks like a spaceship.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, sir.
All right.
Transportation?
Director of Labor Analysis here tonight, talking about Transportation Department. And Phil, you got a report? There you go.
All right, I'll just say Cliff. All right, so here's our transportation staff. We got Sharon Abbott, Assistant Director, Chris Foster. Just started off as our router this year. We had a new routing software that we started last year implementing, and it's awesome. It's just amazing. It's a whole lot easier. The thing that I love about our new routing software is that we can contact any student, any parent by text or email real quick. So if I needed to contact one bus that was, say they were in an accident or something, I could send it within a minute. I just pull up that bus and go from wherever that stop is on down, and then send a message to those students, those parents, which is one thing that we've never had, but that's the routing part itself is awesome too. One of the things that we did at the beginning of the school year is we were able to send out messages to the parents, letting them know what buses and that they were going to be on. And we were able to buy, we bought 60,000 text messages. And we were able to send that out And so we've had a whole lot fewer phone calls this year. And we were able to get the parents that information. We still had phone calls, but not as much. Anyway, so we love that routing software. We have Casey Cresswell, our administrative assistant, and she also does our field trips. And our field trip software is made by the same as our routing software. We like them both. It's pretty awesome. Sean Harper is our router, assistant router and trainer. He's kind of an all-around guy for us. Just knows just about everything. Our training last year, I think I talked to you last year about the training was going to be a little bit more difficult. We needed to go and standardize it. Sean Harper's ex-military. He created this standardized training program that was amazing. And in fact, we just finished training, I don't know how many coaches that we didn't think we were going to get done. So we had one that just passed their test just this last week. And so that's good, because before Sean, we were having very little luck getting them through there. But anyway, that's part of our transportation staff. Click. Richard Longinati is our lead mechanic. He's a master technician. Like I said, we at one point we were the only district that had 3. Now we only have 1. Y'all know any mechanics? We'd be happy to talk to him. We did hire Raleigh Weaver. He's more of a shop helper, but he's walking around Richard and learning a few things. And then Karen Jones is our other driver trainer, and she's been helping us out a lot. And let's see. We have 20 drivers, and then 2 crossing guards, 4 special needs monitors, 5 floating monitors, and 1 driving monitor that does our catalyst run. She drives at Sport College, and then of course 1 mechanic. And no dispatchers or porters at this time. We just kind of do that as we need. Personal needs mechanic. You just need a mechanic. If something happens to Richard, he went on a cruise this year. Only time he's been out this year. Only time. He took his wife, who has cancer, took her on a cruise, and it just made me nervous. But like I said, he's a mechanic. Our ridership. Our total ridership, we have over 1,200 different students riding the bus every day. In the morning, about almost 1,100. In the afternoon, about 1,000. Once football's over, I'm sure that number is going to jump quite a bit, but that's what we're transporting right now. Daily activities, we have 16 buses, 16 routes, regular routes, and then 4 special needs routes. And then 4 midday routes, actually, we just dropped that down to 3, and then, of course, we have that college run. Vehicle inventory. We have 41 school buses, 10 of those are special needs buses, and then 31 are regular buses. Our last year, we transported, we went 350,476 miles just transporting students to and from school, not including field trips. Average mileage per regular bus is about 21,000. Some of them are going to be 30,000. Some are going to be about 15. But that's about the average that each bus trip goes every year, transporting students to and from. Again, not field trips. And then our special needs buses, they're almost 40,000 miles a year. We have 4 routes. They went 152,436. 1 bus is going to be a lot more than that, because they're going to be closer to 50,000. They run almost 200 miles a day, or a little over 200, I think. This kind of gives you a little breakdown of the state of our fleet. The things that are highlighted I wanted to show you is these 2 buses right here. These are our everyday rider buses. Every day off. These are 16. These 2 buses have over 211,000 miles on them. And we're getting to the point where it makes us nervous sending buses out because they're getting to that age. Out of these buses right now, 3 of them are broke down. And 2 of them, one of them was because of a tree fell on it, but the other 2 were because of just mechanical issues. But the one with the tree on it was our brand new bus, brand spanking new bus that had very low mileage. It was our best bus in the fleet, and it was going to be out of commission for about a year. This is the state of our fleet. If you look over here, this is our special needs buses, and we have 2 buses that are 180 and 185,000 miles. So we're predicting that, and all these mileages were taken in August. So none of these are recent. These were from August the 11th. Every year, August 11th, we take all the mileages for our operation report. But what we're predicting is, about another 40,000. That's going to put them at a little over 200,000 miles. So we'd like to get some buses. We'd like to be kind of on a every other year rotation. One of the things that we've usually in the past have always used grant money to purchase buses. And you can go ahead and click the next one. And unfortunately, right now, the only grant buses that are available, or the only grants that are available, are for electric buses, which it sounds very good. The bus manufacturers, they're pushing the buses. The people that I deal with, they say, right now, Cy-Fair is having a lot of issues with it, with that 100-degree weather. The ACs are messing up the circuitry. They're having a lot of issues. The batteries cost almost $60,000, so it's really not electric buses are really not the way to go. Plus, they're $380,000 a piece. There are grants available for those buses for about, the max I think is $320 per bus, which if we were to get that, it'd be $60,000, but there's no grants available for the infrastructure, the charging stations, anything like that. And the charging stations are only, they would take, for 4 buses, it would take about 8 hours from the first bus to the last bus to be completed. It's kind of one finishes and the next one, then the next one. Which wouldn't be good for us anyway, because we're a country. Works good in the inner city where their routes are short, 60 miles, 70 miles. But here we travel long distances with our buses, so it's really not that great. So the buses that we purchased in the past, they're international buses. This is what they cost now. When the last 2 times we purchased it, the first time we purchased was $90,000. Then last year it was $120,000. This year, a regular bus is going to cost us $152,000. The special needs buses are a little bit more at $153,000. And
are those diesel buses?
These are diesel buses. In fact, the manufacturers don't even produce anything but diesel and electric now. And like I said, she said she would sell us electric, but she wouldn't suggest it. That's pretty much it as far as buses. We need buses. This is just going over stuff that we've done this year that I already talked about. Smart Tag was one of those things that we got in there that parents are really into it now. They're using it a lot more to track their students, which is awesome. And I talked about the Transact routing. It's easy routing, fewer phone calls, and the ability to contact the parents in any situation is one thing that I really love about it.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the buses for daily routes?
Yes.
The next one right there. So those are the buses we use on a daily basis?
Daily basis.
So you say we have 31 buses and we use 16, so what do we do with the other 15?
The other 15, they're, well, out of that, 2 of them don't work. They have very low power, so, and then we have 3 that are down, that are real down. It sounds like we have a lot of buses, but next Friday, we're crossing our fingers, we have the parts to fix some buses, because next Friday we have 9 buses that are going out. In addition to our 16, we have 9. That puts us at 25, gives us 6 buses. 2 of them are down, drops us down to 4. Actually, 2 are down permanently, 3 are down partially, 1 spare bus.
So
that
the
leaves us
9
with 1 spare.
are going. Tell them where the 9 are going.
The 9 that are going, they're going to Belleville. football game.
But you have to leave before school's out.
Yeah. So right now, we're at, and.
So how many usable buses out of 31,
Out of that 31, I was at 29 buses. The two buses they're just never, they're very low powered. Propane buses we can't take out of town. So this is what we're gonna do for next week. The plan is we're gonna take our 9 best buses and give it to the football and cheer and all that. They're gonna take the 9 best buses. And the buses that we think can make it around town, we're gonna put everybody else in. And cross our fingers.
Do we need to buy a record before we buy another bus so we can pull it back?
Richard wanted me to ask if to get another shop vehicle because it's pretty old too, and if he has to go and rescue somebody in Belleville, he'd rather not drive that truck.
So what ages would you say the other 9 are? Are they older than the 2011?
I have the ages of all of them. So our oldest bus is a 2004. We have 3 2004s, a 2006, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 2008s, 1 2010, and then 57 and 58, they're 2013. I think you remember when we bought those gross back buses, those used buses, been our best buses that we've ever had. But that was, those were 2011s. And,
That long ago? Wow.
Yeah, it's been that long ago. But if you notice, we're still using them. These 2 right here are gross back buses. We paid 70,000 for them.
Something like that.
And
You can't find us another deal like that?
Rumor has it that they're gonna stop producing the diesel buses. So the last 2 conferences that I went to, they didn't even bring out a diesel bus. So they're all electric, some propane, and there's only one propane bus manufacturer that's doing it now. Thomas and International both got out of the propane. They only do diesel and electric, and the big push is to electric.
What are they gonna do when we can't take a LP bus out of the district and a electric bus won't make it to Brenneman back?
That's why
You
I
have
would
to reschedule
like.
your football games differently.
And here's the thing, and I'm with you there. That's a big fear for me, is I would like to get as many diesel buses before, because they're saying by 2030 that they're gonna stop manufacturing it. I'd like to be on a schedule where we can continue to purchase these buses, so we would have the diesel buses. Belleville is 145 miles round trip. And I just don't know that we could get a electric bus up and back. And then, of course, we have some buses that end up going to other trips like San Antonio, Dallas, things like that. If we were to go with a propane bus, we have to figure out where we can fuel something like that. The infrastructure just isn't there now. And I don't want to be one of the first school districts to go into that direction. I'd rather other people make the mistakes and we learn from them, and then go that route. So
I think 350,000 is off the table, so you don't have to really worry about that side of it right now. If we can buy 2 buses for the price of 1, I think we have to do something like that.
What's the deal with the liquid propane? Are we still getting a good rate on it?
yeah.
I know you said we were locked in last year.
On the propane, the buses that we get 30 cents above market value, which is I think it was $1.20. This last week it was $1.20 was what we were paying per gallon. Now, the bad part is it's not like a diesel gallon. Our diesel buses get about, I think the best we get is about 10 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our propane buses are more like 4. So But it is.
It's $1.20 gallon versus
$1.20.
3 gallons will get you close to the same.
Yeah. So
That's why you're
I think it's 30 to 45 cents above market value, and you can go online and check it and see what it's looking like. But I will tell you that our drivers dislike these buses more than any bus we ever had. They are, I don't know, it's because the heaviness of them, but they're very rough. We have a lot of drivers complain of back issues with these buses. It's just, they weren't, we don't like them very much. The price for propane is great. And if these other, these are manufactured by Bluebird. International buses, the drivers love them. They're like Cadillacs. They can drive, 10 hours a day in those and not complain. But these, they come back and, we have a lot of people with canes that drive the buses and back issues, and we try to keep them out of these buses, but that's all we have. Also, just wanted to point out that we only have 10 buses with seat belts, so purchasing 2 would actually make it a little bit safer. That we have fewer behaviors with buses with seat belts, because kids always ride with their seat belt. Then when they get on a bus that don't have a seat belt, that's when they start acting up, and they're like, "Well, I'm free."
I haven't looked in next week we have the school board convention, and I haven't talked to the bus manufacturers in several years, but probably the 2015 or what I used to look a lot. And there used to be manufacturers that would get older buses and refurbish them and sell them and stuff like that. Are you familiar with any of those type companies or anything like that, or ever heard anything about that? I don't even know if they still do it or not, but back in the day, it was about 60, 70 cents on the dollar versus a new bus. And they would have one there. Of course, it was a showroom model, but it looked.
I can tell you this, everybody is, the bus manufacturers can keep buses on the lot. There's no stock buses. It will be June at the earliest before we're gonna get any buses. And it's just because everybody is doing the same thing. Everybody's trying to get as many diesel buses as they can before whatever's gonna happen happens. So everybody's kind of in the same boat. I did have one manufacturer that called me that says he's looking to buy some buses to sell to other districts, and he asked us if we were interested in purchasing, but I wasn't really interested in that. I don't want to buy somebody else's problems. I only have one mechanic, and I'd rather buy something that has a warranty. That's what Groesbeck, they didn't have any mechanics, so once their warranties were out, that's when they would get rid of them. That was back in 2013 or 14. I really, like I said, I'd really like to have something in place like that.
Did they give you a price on what they were selling buses for?
Which one?
The school you just said?
Yes. Yeah, I have 2 quotes actually. I got a second quote today, and this quote was actually from Thomas, and it's not a bus that we've ever used. I've talked to Richard about it. It is the same engine and transmission. It's just a little funkier looking. It's a little space age. I meant to bring one of my little ones. I have a bunch of, but it's actually they rushed it to me, but it's $130,000 for a special and $140 for a regular. So, but I got those 2 today. The only problem with that one is we're not familiar with that one, or we don't have, we've never dealt with that brand, but it does have the same diesel engine and the same transmission as our other buses. So Richard said if we go that route, we should have a lot of the same parts. Body parts, no, but everything else.
But you were saying something about somebody, you didn't want about somebody else's problem. Were you talking about this manufacturer?
No. This is brand new buses with warranty and everything. Both of them are brand new buses with warranty.
Okay. What was you saying a while ago about somebody you didn't want to buy somebody's problem?
That was a company that was looking to buy our buses, which I told them, what we had. They wanted newer buses, and I told them we didn't have any newer buses. I was trying to get rid of some of the older ones.
Okay.
And they said if we were interested in purchasing, or if we would be. I did not get any prices on them, because like I said, I was just if somebody's gonna sell their buses, more than likely there's something wrong with them, is the way I was feeling. And I didn't want to purchase them and then end up with somebody's issues.
Unless they're taking that grant money and going all electrical.
Yeah. So.
Well, they're in chapter 41, they're gonna do a bond and pay them off as capture money and get rid of their old buses.
But yeah, so 41 buses, and like I said, 2 of them we really need to get rid of. It just, we don't drive them at all. They have no power. And then we have some others with some issues, and, you know, we did get I think it's gonna be $23,000 to take that tree dent off of one bus.
So is that bus repairable?
Yes, yes. And considering the size of the tree, I was very shocked, but it made me feel better about our kids riding in these buses, because that was a huge, massive tree, and that bus took all that weight and didn't, I mean, it was dented in the back. It took out the AC unit. But other than that, it looked like to me that if our buses were to roll over, that I would feel confident that they would be okay, especially if they had seatbelts.
Okay.
And that was a seatbelt bus.
Sounds good, we'll take it into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Safety, security?
All right, you'll find the safety and security sheet in your folder. Just some things to go over, just to, I'll be talking more about this when we get to the action items as far as security purchases, but just some things that you know, part of those purchases are coming from the security grants. So we had $208,000, almost $208,000.
Someone looks like this.
It looks like this.
Got a paper clip on it.
Yeah, it's 3 documents. It has that on top. This is the first sheet. That's for my neighbor.
No, this is, that's remote cases here.
So from the safety standards grant, security standards grant, we had roughly $208,000. I'm asking you to approve a purchase tonight for the shatterproof film, which I got them down. Actually, we made some adjustments, and it's in the $160,000 range. We've already purchased vinyl numbers for all our campuses. They're getting those up as far as that's a requirement we needed to meet. $20-something thousand of that money is going to go to the to buy silent panic technology. Actually, to cover 2/3 of it, because we're going to do a 5-year contract for that, as opposed to a 1-year contract or a 3-year. We just save money in the long run. The only thing that we have left to buy is some Knox boxes for WC, CHS, and Wild Peach, even though we have already provided all the emergency responders with keys to those campuses that would respond to those campuses. But that's the last thing. And then that'll leave us with about $10,000 left of that money. That we've identified a fencing area, possibly a fencing area that we'd like to put some fence around at the junior high, near the cafeteria for it. They've created an outdoor seating area for lunch, by the lunchroom. In order for kids to be out there, we need to secure it. So that's what we're looking at with the security grant money. The silent panic technology grant, as I said, we got roughly $10,000 there. Like I said, we're going to purchase that through DataVox and QuickAlert. Actually, the company is QuickAlert. We're just buying it through DataVox, and that'll pay for basically a third of that 5-year contract that we'll use for that silent panic technology that we'll be using. Next on the list is COVID cases. Hate to bring that back up, but we are still responsible for it. At the beginning of the year, we did have a spike in COVID cases. We were up to, within the first couple of weeks of school, about 20 cases district-wide. We're still having to report that weekly. I report that weekly to the county as far as the number of active cases. Right now, we have no active cases, so we went from around 20 to 0. So hopefully that trend will continue. We still are providing COVID tests to any student or family that would like them, and staff that come down with symptoms. As far as Texas School Safety Center, they will be requesting our emergency operation plans, specifically our basic plan, which we renew every year in our summer Safety and Security Council meeting. This year, they're also doing audits on our severe weather plan and hazardous materials plan, which I know there's going to be a lot of schools across the country scrambling to put those together because I know a lot of them don't have them. Fortunately, we have them. I'm still reaching out to some people to look over our hazardous materials plan simply because I'm not an expert in hazardous materials. So that's still a work in progress. And then essentially what we're doing, they're done. We're just waiting on the Texas School Safety Center to send an email to Mr. Galloway to give us the codes to be able to send them to them. What they will do is they will evaluate them much like they do every year. And then they will send us back saying either A, it meets the requirements as set forth by law, or B, you need to make these adjustments to them. And as long as you get those in compliance, everything's good. If not, then your name gets put on the bad boy list. Mr. Champagne asked last month for me to reach out, for the campuses to reach out to staff as far as safety training requests. You know, I explained to you last time when we went over the safety audit information, the problem we have is when we ask staff for additional training, they're very vague in what they say. Well, they've continued to still be very vague in what they say. So the things they ask for, and I tried to drill down, you know, the campuses reached out to their people and sent it to me. When I would be out on campuses, I would ask specific people, hey, you could have any safety training, would you like? Well, I would like this. Well, could you specifically tell me what you'd like to see? And very seldom did that, actually not hardly at all, did that conversation go any further. So some things that I pulled out of that, what are they really wanting to see? They're wanting Chief to do active shooter trainings on the other campuses, much like he does at Columbia High School when he does their active shooter drills over here. Whether or not Chief can get them to do that, they like to work at the high school simply because of the layout of the campus. That's something we'll have to get to other local law enforcement to see if that's something they will do. The problem with that is the staff are never there for that. They don't really get to see it, other than we ask a few people to volunteer to be shooters and victims. And they go through the process. But as far as everybody seeing that, it's not something that people are invited to because they simply get in the way. Something that really stuck out, and I will investigate, is physical and mental health. They want more, not just for the kids, but for them. So that's something that I'm going to get with Jennifer Kelly and Delma with, Ms. Garza, who is our counselor in the district, is to see if we can pinpoint specific trainings where we can bring people in to talk about different topics regarding physical and mental health. But again, that's a very vague subject, and we need to drill down on that a little bit more and see if we can find some specific topics.
So when you're talking about that, you're talking about more emotional, right?
Correct.
Than physical.
Yeah. De-escalate. They love the de-escalation training that we've been doing. They want more. They want version 2.0. Right? We have to find a version 2.0. I don't know if that exists. So again, they tell us what they want. We brought it in. They want more. So we've got to try to find more. So, which is always difficult to do. And then some other things. Online safety and security, which I was good, which we have people that can come in and do cyber training. We have people in our technology department that can do some online safety and security training for them. So, and then here recently, or just today, someone mentioned human trafficking, which is great because I know Dr. Montgomery was doing who's the former superintendent in Angleton. She's my high school history teacher. She's a partner in the human trafficking organization here in Brazoria County, and she does training. So I do have contact.
And we have counselors that attended those meetings as well.
So the majority of the things they ask for, and then other things they ask for, are more drills, more CPI training, more training for new staff. It was always more of this, more of that, but it was never specific. So we've kind of taken what we've got. We're going to try to find some specific trainings and costs. So I'll try to come back to you at another date once I can identify what they actually want and what we can provide that we can't do in-house, that we can bring somebody in. So, and then the last thing is we did have our safety and security committee meeting in August. Thanks to everybody that came. I've already discussed about that, but the next meeting, the fall meeting, will be in November. Chief Sanders, do you have anything to add?
I don't have a whole lot. Everybody else had a lot of stuff going on. One thing I had from our report last month, the first couple of weeks of school, we had 3 reports brought to us last month. Of course, we're not doing the truancy checks anymore, so you won't be seeing that on the report this year. We do now have marked units visible at each campus. Mr. Galloway's gave us 2 vehicles from transportation. We've got them, I got them graphicked out, just waiting on the lights to come in. Then we'll take those 2 cars and get the red and blues put in them. And that's all I have.
Whenever we do active shooter training at the high school, would it be something maybe we could video it and then show them the video so they actually see kind of how they
Chief, would that be a
do the
problem?
things like that? I mean,
No,
I thought it was very interesting whenever I came and watched it.
I know when y'all came, it's like more, you get more realistic when you're there as opposed, but again, it goes to, for the other agencies, when they gonna have time to use this, we can only do it when kids are not in school. Just through the summer, your staff teachers want to come in. And then when you do, kids are out of school, then most of your schools have their in-service training with all the teachers. So, I mean, I can try to make something arrange with Lake Jackson PD or Chief Odin to do it.
So let me ask you this, just, do we think that we understand that you've had meetings with any agency that will report to an incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've all sat down at the table, you've all shared information, you've all shared what kind of tactical gear you have, you've shared campus maps, I mean, we have all that, right? Do you think it would be worth a shot of you talking to the staff at each campus, explaining that? I mean, is it a more of, do we not feel safe because there hasn't been a drill on our campus? Or do we understand that there is a planning piece that's taking place, right? And I know we've had safety and security meetings. I'm just wondering if there could be people answering questions that don't know that information, right? Just simply because everything's not public all the time.
I would say on the campus level, all the principals attend the safety and security committee meetings or are a part of those committee meetings, and they have every right to share that information. That's a public meeting, so that information should be shared back.
So what I'm getting at, maybe is we can set you up to attend staff meetings throughout the district and explain those kind of things so that people would know that it has been talked about, it has been discussed, there are things in place, right?
One thing we also have at our
Right, what's what I'm getting at is let Chief talk about it, and then you could, as you do that, you could see what kind of feedback you get.
And we have a lot, at our expense, we have a lot of footage of actual shooting that the general public doesn't have, that, when these cases are gone, we can sit down with administrators or staff and show them some videos, and if they have questions,
And principals, has the staff reached out to y'all and said anything like what they would like or thoughts? I mean, to me, if I was on there, I mean, to have a concept of what actually happens would be kind of, give me a warm and fuzzy to know, because I mean, when it happens, your heart rate elevated, you panic and everything else, and I'm just asking, I mean, what do you have any suggestions of what your people may want?
We talked about it at length at the beginning of the year and getting to experience it and watching them with the non-live bullets and how that feels and how they had to run around the building and that kind of thing. And they were very interested, but I do think that having seen a piece of it, maybe a video or something like that would help them with that transparency and kind of bring them into it.
Okay.
Do you think it would have to be campus, just for that campus? You think if we videotaped it at the high school and they watched how they, it'd be awesome if some of the cops would donate their, like maybe wear the body cams and you could put together a pretty cool video. But,
I mean, and I know it's a ways off, but maybe like a day next year, I don't know when we come back from school, maybe there's a day if staff can say, hey, I'll give the local agencies, we'll do a big old training scenario we can go to junior high school, bring as many people as you can, fit them in the hallways, they can see the actual. Of course, they have to be out of range of the Sims rounds, but we can run scenarios around them and have them be part of it.
Maybe.
But that may be take away from Dave from your instructional stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to think how you would do it.
I mean, from the public standpoint, when you see Uvalde or whatever, you see a bunch of cops standing outside and they're talking or whatever, you think, okay, what really happens whenever this happens, you know? From my standpoint as a citizen, or I would think as a staff member, you know, when they start running in, you know, like I say, it's very
There's so many
interesting to me to
variables,
see what happens at the high school when it's kind of a live demonstration. So I can appreciate them curious about that.
I think whatever can put them, something that's not from the computer screen, you know?
Yeah.
We had this discussion, I mean, several of our teachers have graduated from college in the past 4 or 5 years. And I mean, I even had this whenever I was in school. I was in an auditorium and they brought someone in and basically showed you what to do to defend yourself. You know, you throw books, whatever you have, those kind of things. And they came in, it was like real life situation. And so several of them, you know, said, how does that apply here? So how can they defend themselves and their students at the same time? Because, you know, rather than just lock the door and bend down, crouch down, because that's not applicable in all situations.
You know, we did have a guy come in a few years ago and he did a run, hide, fight scenario with all our staff during in-service day. You know, and some of the questions that I had in talking to people is, you know, and I tell them, you know, you're grounded in your drills. You know, our standard response protocol is, you know, you follow your drills. You follow your. I wish I had an answer for everything that's going to happen if that in the event that happens. But at the end of the day, we always stick to what we do in our drills, and then the run, hide, fight things as well. So, you know, and it's just the unknown about, they want to know exactly what to do. You can't give them every scenario. You can tell them, this is what we do in this. Our drills dictate this. This is what we do. That's why we do the drills. So, yeah, I know we did have an arrangement we tried to get an arrangement with DPS. They were going to come in and do an actual live demo of an active shooter, including reunification and all that, but Trooper Duke just couldn't get it. I think they canceled it on, or the state shut it down.
Yeah, as far as up the chain, it got stopped.
So
We're trying to work with Chief and see if maybe we can get some agencies or something, and maybe, you know, maybe on in-service day, if we did it at one campus, another campus could come, all of them could come to one elementary and see it, or something, just to, like I say, to see the guys actually physically running and screaming and talking and hearing the commands.
Or if they could have got video of them doing breaching drills over here.
You know, yeah, that kind of stuff that you see live. I mean, like I say, you can go through your protocol, whatever, but when you actually physically hear them and you hear those combat boots y'all wear going down the halls. I mean, it's more lifelike, and so you're ready for something like that, I think. If you need, we could try to work out something.
And once I get I can pinpoint some specific trainings, I'll come back to you if there's any expense, if we can.
Okay. Sounds good. Instructional update?
All right, again, Mr. Miller will take over this one, but now you're going to go to the page, this colorful page. It was part of that packet. I sent you some information a couple of weeks ago on a letter from the investigative department at TEA. And what happens is I would assume their data called an anomaly. We've talked about since COVID, as we've discussed ADA and budget, as we've discussed scores and accountability and testing, we've talked about what happened. And so Mr. Miller is going to kind of give you a history from 2018 through this year. TA, so when a student withdraws at the high school, you have to assign a leaver code to it, meaning they've left your school. And when it comes to graduation rates and things like that, certain things and dropout rates, certain things count, certain things don't, certain codes do. And so we keep track of all our students, and we told you that for a period of years we had a drop right during COVID. In this we'll see, you can see a number of students, and we had a large number of students that were able to basically sign out, saying they were going to private school. At this time, in a closed town, there was more or less a Christian school that would allow them to enroll, complete a course of study, pay the fee, and then get basically a private school diploma. Now, what that does is that allows that kid, it puts that kid back on a level playing field. They could go to Brazosport College and enroll. Now, depending upon the transcript, more than likely that they were not going to have state testing completed, because that's the idea of going to private school and not public school. So they wouldn't have completed the EOCs. When it comes to the diploma and the transcript, it's going to be a little different. They don't have to have the credits required at our school. But again, it allows them to go to Brazosport College and get back on a level playing field, even if they could take SAT, they could take TSI, and depending upon what happens, they could get back even, or even start with remedial and go. Again, many of the contractors that work in the plants, if you don't have the high school diploma, you're not getting through the gates. So if they could get lucky enough to find a job, it gets them through the gate, right? So it's kind of hard when you have a large number of kids to do that, to tell them not to. I think we did tell them not to, and as Mr. Miller has worked with the high school campus and even McGahey, our registrar, and looking at, man, we actually have the data on every kid. So every kid TA is asking about, we have the data, including some of them have actually brought us their diploma from that school. So it is what it is, but it's an anomaly, and TA wants our information. Because, quite honestly, there are people that play games. It wouldn't be the first time somebody did. But in this case, we have the information. So anyway, with that, Mr. Miller, I'll let you.
So yeah, so Mr. Galloway referred to what we call lever codes when a kid signs out of school. If you'll see at the top of this page right here, it's the one that was on the, you'll see lever code definitions. And these aren't all the lever codes that kids can sign out for, but it's the one that we're being audited over. So if you look at code 3, that's a student dying. If a student dies for whatever reason, you kind of think, well, why would that be an anomaly? But apparently TA thinks it is. Apparently a lot of schools report that kids die over the summer or during the school year. Students returning to home country. We're actually going to, that's one of the things they're looking at for us. If you recall, Ms. Bailey has done a great job of bringing in foreign exchange students, but a kid that returns to their home country after their junior year, that's a lever code that they look at to see whether there's an anomaly or not. Code 24 is students who entered college and working towards an associate's or bachelor's degree. Student is being homeschooled, which is code 60. That is one that they're looking at for us. 66 kids that's removed by CPS from the school. 78, a student was expelled and cannot return to school. That would be a kid that we expel but do not send to boot camp, meaning an 18-year-old student that we essentially expel on the streets, okay? Which that doesn't happen very often. Code 81, which is the other one, the big hit for us, which is a student that is enrolled in a private school in Texas. And then the rest of them, 82, that's a kid that moves out of state and enrolls in a public school. 83 is a kid that's withdrawn because they were not entitled to be enrolled there. That's a person that falsifies enrollment information. They say they live in the district when they really don't. We send mail, we get it back, we find out they don't live here, and we kick them, we take them out of school because they falsified enrollment. 85, student graduated outside of Texas before entering a public school in Texas again. It's never happened while I've been here. 86, student completed GED outside of Texas. 87, student withdrew to enroll in Texas Tech ISD, the University of Texas High School Diploma Program. 90, student graduated from another state under the Interstate Compact for Military Children. And then code 98 is which we try to avoid, and that is students that simply just drop out of school. They don't give a reason. They just say, I'm not coming back. So that's considered a dropout. So if you look, you have a historical perspective here. So I have it broken down by year, the number of graduates that were in that class, the lever codes by number. So if you look for 2018, and I'm only specifically going to focus on lever code 60, which is homeschool, and lever code 81. So 2 years before COVID hit, you'll see that we had 60 students that were in the class of 2018 cohort that left. 19 of them left to be homeschooled, 10 of them left to enter a private school. The class of 2019, out of 184 graduates, you had 19 students that chose to be homeschooled in that cohort. That means a cohort is when they enter high school, the group that enters, so they would have entered high school in 2015, that cohort. And you had 81 that decided to go to private school. Class of 2020, that was the first year that we ended in March for COVID. You had 21 kids that checked out to homeschool. You had 30 kids that chose to go to, basically, I'm not going to beat around the bush, the school was Cornerstone Academy out of Bay City. Okay, that was the name of the school that everybody withdrew to. Class of 2021, that was the year, remember, kids had a virtual option. We did a virtual option or face-to-face. We had 25 kids that chose to be homeschooled in that cohort, and we had 49 that chose to enter a private school, enroll in a private school. The next year, we came back full-time face-to-face. The number of homeschool kids went up to 32. The number of kids that left to go to private school went down to 38. As we're moving forward, the class of 2023, last year's graduating class, you had 24 that went into, out of 193, you had 24 that decided to go to homeschool, and 81 that went to a private school. The current class of 2024, you have 201 graduation candidates at this time. 22 of them have withdrawn to be homeschooled. 7 of them have chosen to withdraw to go to a private school. And there's only a couple of them that have gone to Cornerstone. So other ones would be like Angleton Christian School. That's what we talk about when there's a private school. Okay.
These are just seniors.
These are that class. From the time they enter high school together to so it would be the class of 2018, meaning they entered high school in 2014.
So, but this could be anytime during their high school.
Correct. They can withdraw
this year.
Correct. Matter of fact, if you're interested, I don't have it on the paper, but I can go all the way to the class of 2027 and tell you what those numbers look like if you want to hear them.
So
no, that's fine.
So what if a kid, say their freshman year, which would have been, say, class of 2023, class of 2020, they left and went to the homeschool option.
They're still the class of 2020. You stay in the cohort from the date you entered high school. So in other words, if you came in and you came into high school in 2019, you're automatically the class of 2023.
So kids in class of 2023 that left and went into homeschool, if they came back,
they're still considered the class of 2023.
But
would they still be listed as a homeschool student?
No, they become actively enrolled. So it's a good question. A kid, suppose Mr. Sisson withdraws to go to homeschool, the next year he comes back and re-enrolls. He is now an active student again, but he still falls into the cohort of the original class.
He goes from a lever 60 to a graduating class.
He goes from a lever 60 to an active student until they graduate. Graduation lever code is actually on.
Okay.
So these are, you have names attached to these numbers.
I have names. Oh yeah. And I can tell you what town they went to, what school they went to, whether or not they brought me a diploma, brought Miss McGahey a diploma back from that private school. I have,
So, and it's to continue what you're talking about, whenever we get our final accountability and you look at all that PEMS information, you'll actually see a 4-year group study, but they also do a 5-year and a 6-year. So you may have kids that don't finish, that come back and finish.
They take your best graduation rate from those 3.
Yeah. So they continue it out to from 4 to 6.
So what we're really getting looked at here specifically from TA is the 4-year cohort of 2022. The 5-year basically, let me rephrase that. 2022 is the 4-year cohort, 2021 5-year cohort, 2026 year cohort. So basically they're looking at the class of 22, 21, and 20, which is COVID years.
Yeah.
So is there a way to look at how many of those kids, because you got to imagine some of those pulled out to be homeschooled or private schooled before COVID hit.
Correct. That's a true statement. Yes. I simply would have to go in and look at the date they actually withdraw.
So would that make a difference? They don't care about that?
No, it's basically it's just lever code.
Okay.
That's crazy.
So what they're going to ask from us is basically what we're having to do is to go in. They're going to give us a sample. They give us a sample of students that ended up showing up as withdrawn with these lever codes. What we do when a kid walks in, when a parent walks in that says, "I'm withdrawing my kid to homeschool," we're not allowed to counsel them.
No.
You know, we simply say, "Here's the form." They say, "I'm going to Galloway homeschool." that's acceptable. Or if I'm withdrawing my kid to go to England, we document it all, we have a parent sign. So we have a form on all those kids. Or they don't even have to show up, they can simply call and say, I'm withdrawing my kid to homeschool, or they can send an email. But they do have to notify the school. And so we have that documentation, and so TEA is asked, for these kids, can you please show us your documentation that this exists? And we have that document.
And then they just say, okay, thanks. And it's done?
So several.
We don't know, we'll find out.
Many years
Yeah,
ago.
sorry to make you go through all the time.
So many years ago, when we would look at this information, if we had a kid, if they said they were doing GED and they had to complete it, and they hadn't tried, and we could investigate and we could actually file truancy charges. If a kid went to, say, going to homeschool and we asked for the curriculum and they couldn't give us the curriculum or evidence, we could actually file truancy charges. That we can't do any of that anymore. But yet we get held accountable for.
But yet they come back to school and they don't know anything because they've been homeschooled.
That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
The criteria that maybe why they asked us? I mean, is it like, when I look at that, if you have more than 25%
I
of
don't know.
class over,
Other than the
Because
fact,
the
in
other
my
ones-
opinion, when you look at that 30 to 49, back down to 38, and you you do a percentage of what percentage increase of that, that's almost what, 120, or not 120%, but a 20% increase from 30 to 49? Or,
Well, in my opinion on that is, that's when they were told they had to go back to school, and they chose not to go back to school.
or they missed the spring, they came back. They came back as virtual students and they sat at home and did nothing. They got so far behind and said, if I'm a freshman or a sophomore, look, you had sophomores that were going to Cornerstone and 6 weeks later bringing us diplomas. Some of those kids were going and then taking the TSI and enrolling in college, to their credit. Some of those kids did exist. And so next thing you know, it just kind of started snowballing.
And they told their friends.
And Neva would say, we're going to get audited on these numbers. I said, Neva, we can't do anything.
did you say 20, 21, and 22 is the 3 years they're looking at?
20, 21, and 22, but you see the spike, and as you can see, that our numbers are starting to get back to normal.
To normalize, yeah.
Well, but even then,
About 49.
it's not by year, it's by the class they're in. So that number, even though it dropped off, it's still up higher than 18 and 19 because the kids didn't want to go back to school and they just didn't graduate that year. So that's skewed numbers.
So if you wonder why the classes of 21 and 22 are so small, you can see why now. I mean, you had 70 kids that either went to homeschool or went to private school. You would have a class of 220, which is about what we start. I mean, the biggest class that I graduated since I've been, or that we graduated, I graduated a class of 225 one year. That's the biggest class we've had. That I'm aware of that we've had.
That class of 2020 would have been huge.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Now, that group of seniors, probably the majority of those, probably left before. You probably had a hit of 81s at the end there, but you probably had a bunch of them. All the homeschool kids. Your homeschool numbers are in line.
Yeah, that number didn't change.
Your 81s probably hit right at the end when people couldn't finish. So. Any questions? Any other questions?
Before we move on, would you reflect in the minutes that Mr. Broussard left at 7:21?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Next, the financial report.
Julie? I think yours is all in budget amendments, right?
It really is.
That's fine. It's on there, I thought it was. Bond 22 report.
All right. In your, just to kind of give you a heads up on where we're at, in your maroon folder, you have an individual sheet that looks like this, and then it has some numbers on the backside. That's it. Okay. So it's yellow and green on the front. There you go, Linda, you have it. So if you look at the colorful side first, this is the control estimates from the completion of the 75% construction documents. if you look down towards the very bottom, you'll see Gina under description, GMP1, that's the early package. That value didn't change, that's what you've already approved. GMP2, the early site package you've approved, that's the same. So the estimation of 75% construction documents for GMP3, which would be the balance of the work, is 55,801,603, which brings the total to 65,163,951. So going back to the control document on the backside that you asked Virgil to come up with. So this is that sheet. And so if you look across the top, you can see construction cost total. You can see under the 50% estimate, it was 65,341,946. You can see now under 75%. I didn't type the numbers in because this is not I don't own this document, so I hand wrote them in just for your benefit. So 75%, you can see we're at 65,163,951. If you go down, you can see phase 3. At 50%, it was 55,979,629. Now it's 55,801,603, which brings you down to the total. You're looking at the 3 packages. At 50%, it was 78,473,297. Now it's 78,295,272. Long story short, if you look at the variance, which means the money that's CBISD money out of this, you're looking, it went from 526,702 to 704,728. So things are trending in that right direction.
Not 55,801 is what Dramala's estimating when we go out for bids, it should come in at that.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
We haven't bid it yet.
We haven't bid
Okay.
yet. That is their 75% estimate.
Okay.
I will tell you that a week ago, they released the 95% drawings. So we're getting real close. They will not do an estimate at 95 simply because just towards the end of this month, they'll have the 100% document. That will be released in the 1st of October for the bid. Okay. So anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up that we're kind of trending in the right direction. Now, in the middle of this document, you see the numbers for A&E, testing, technology, and FF&E. So specifically for FF&E, that's our money to buy school furniture and things like that. So so that y'all know, I've already started working with our furniture supplier on what a new classroom would look like. Teacher's desk, phone, technology, everything involved, what that price tag for a new classroom would look like. And so I will tell you, we'll be looking to finish that this fall semester so that we can meet with staff at the high school, make sure this is what they want. I mean, we have options like, you want individual desks? Would you like movable tables, big movable tables, small movable tables? You know, the cost for student desk is cheaper. Tables are more expensive, but the tables will probably last longer, especially if they're movable. That gives you some, you can rearrange your rooms and things like that, especially since our rooms are going to be carpeted now. So that's kind of the change. There's going to be different. It's not going to be the old linoleum anymore. Right? So we'd like to establish that cost. It looks like that this area has been estimated well, of where we might be able to do things like go ahead and help the science department, right? Again, those classrooms were built over 20 years ago. We may be able to freshen those up as well. So I think we're going, price-wise, it looks like we're going in a good direction. Keep in mind that the numbers in here, that's all new technology. So, when we talk about teacher laptops and student laptops, there's money here that we can spend on things like that. And then what the high school currently has can become useful for the rest of the district. So, it's kind of a 2-year plan, and that's why we have to start talking now, because we may be able to take advantage of some things.
What are we testing?
Testing is like, so when the concrete gets poured, they have to test.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
PSI testing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you right now that we have signed a contract for that, and the cost is about 1/10 of what's budgeted. So the upfront contract with just what's the basic test is only 1/10 of what we have budgeted. Now, if there are issues, right, and they had to do this and do that, so that's why but I'm just letting you know, that's an example, I think we've really estimated this well.
And there's still some contingency budget in there as well, right?
And there's contingency, and there's thousands of contingency in it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Did you find out how much the switch thing and stuff?
Okay, so I forgot, Justin didn't say. So one of the things we had talked about was, I put in your board letter a few weeks ago that the electrical supplier for the campus now, right, the switchgear is gonna need to be twice as big. We're getting new transformers. One of the issues of trying to get the switchgear early, the switchgear has a 52-week lead time on it. And that's why they were really saying, we need to try to find a way to do another early package. Well, they found a way now that when the gym opens a year early, they're able to actually tie the gym into the current switchgear. And it will support the switchgear until we open the new 2-story building in August of 2025. And then when they tie it all back in, that's when we need that new switchgear. Long story short, we don't need it till 12 months later, so that rush of trying to get it early is not going to be a problem. Okay. So it will be included in package 3 when it comes to bid. So it's worked out. They found a way to tie it.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. And the load will handle just the new gym.
So if I'm reading it right, there was about 4.4 million in contingencies in
That's what I thought.
the first 3,
Yeah.
all 3 packages.
Yeah.
Somewhere around 4 million.
Great. And so they will be back next month?
Yes.
Because they have a contract for that.
I think you'll see a
By then, they
presentation.
should be close to through a demo, I think. On that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good, good. Anything else on that? Questions, comments? Ready for action items then?
Yes.
We'll go to discussion. Possible act, we did number 1, so we're going to number 2, approve amendment of the 23-24 district budget.
Okay, so this year, y'all know when we did the budget, we did it very conservative on the number of students we had. And when we actually had the students all show up, it was significant enough that we decided to amend the budget to include those students in the revenue that they would produce. And so we had Casey redo our revenue projections based on our new team numbers, our new enrollment numbers of students who were actually enrolled here. And so doing that actually increased our budget significantly. So I met with the finance committee yesterday just to kind of go over where we put the money that came in. I netted this number with the miscellaneous revenue from the 313s that we're not getting, that we thought we would get. And so the increase in budget's about 1.3 million. And so you'll see in the budget amendment where I kind of put it all, but you just see account numbers, so I just kind of wanted to go over where some of that money is going. So we went back to the schools and we trued them up so that their allocation they get for supplies matches the number of students they have. That was about 19,000 total. We did the same thing with the library fund, and then we added about 181,000 for substitutes. And we based it on what the schools had used last year for subs, put that on the budget. We included some security information that Chris kind of went over that they're doing. We had put that in the budget, which is about 160,000 approximately. And then we had, where we do computer refreshes, that was kind of low on the budget. We didn't budget enough just because everything has gone up, and we increased technology about 60,000 for those computers.
Yeah, those are, for this year's refresh, that will be teacher computers for West Columbia Elementary and the junior high, I believe.
And then
It's underneath.
the rest of it, we kind of trued up payroll.
Just a second, Julie. It's in, if you look under the amendments and consent agenda, it's in Julie's attachment there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Normally your budget amendments are there, but because we're actually coming in and changing revenue projections, we wanted to put it in as an action item and you actually vote on it so that it can't be said we tried to sweep something out of the rug. We just want to be out.
That's fine, I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. You're good.
Okay.
And I'll try in the future to kind of put descriptions by the account, since you really don't know what those account numbers mean. And then the rest of it, we put into functional 11 into payroll. I did have a disability old age survivor insurance of 1.85 that I had left off the original budget, so that accounted for about 500,000. And then the rest of it, the 270, is just put in function 11, either for positions we know we're going to hire, or just kind of as a holding pattern.
So there is a small amount of
We
money.
had about 80,000 that's not allocated anywhere. We just put in a functional 11 code because we know it'll probably be spent on instructional something.
But, and then keep in mind, so Julie talked about, the 313 grant, remember? We were talking about, we budgeted 675 because that's what we expected. And we're getting 133. So this 1.3 is also taking up that slack of that missing 500 and some odd thousand dollars.
So on the actual budget amendment, if you looked at it, you can kind of see at the very top where I talked about just amending the general budget for new revenue projections. And you'll see a negative like $4 million. That's because we're taking that out of what they said we were going to get for taxes because of and we'll talk about that during the tax rate, but because of the 100,000 exemption we're getting. And then you'll see a $6 million number. That means that's what TEA is going to be giving us. The state will be giving us in lieu of the taxes we're losing.
Kind of hold
So that's
harmless.
going up, kind of a hold harmless. That was the main, just general budget change that we had. Then the rest of it is just, the rest of the budget amendments are really just getting the bond money put on the books, getting our federal grants all put on there, and then having our rollover from last year of federal money because they go through September 30th. We roll that over on
And
this
speaking
budget
of the
as well.
federal grants, didn't you just this month get your entitlements?
Yes, we just got entitlements.
So when we budget in June, right, their best guess.
Yeah.
And so now it's concrete.
Yes.
And Julie met with the budget group last night. We kind of went over this. We're still thinking, or there's a possibility that they may still meet next month and do actual bill or a school budget. Don't know 100% on that.
The governor spoke today.
Oh, did
He
he?
said there will be one next month.
Okay.
But if you read the early political prophecies, it's all going to be centered around school choice. Meaning that if nothing will happen for public ed unless money goes for school choice. So that's going to be the next political battle. Yeah. The article I read today said that they expect the special session to be more about school choice than it is about funding public. So again, that's just a magazine, right? Yeah. But we hope it lines up well, but yes, there's still a chance for that. And again, as Mr. Champagne asked that question last night, we did, when y'all passed the budget, you did make the exception that if there was increased funding during the year, that you reserved the right to go back and address staff salaries. And so we hope something positive happens along the lines where we can do that.
Because realistically, the numbers we're using now are just based off of old law, not anything new. I mean, they haven't given anything really to do with funding. Our big increase was because of our enrollment is higher than what we originally estimated.
Correct.
And we feel like the ADA is going to be higher. So that's something you need to watch as the year goes on to be sure we stay at that number. And if it starts dropping, then we need to tighten our belt to some of these things that we did from that standpoint. You sent me a thing, because we talked last night about the new runs. I sent you the old run. Right. Did you see what I was talking about? Right. So I didn't understand what you sent me as far as.
So one of the things, Mr. Champion, when we were looking at runs early, when in this legislative session, because you had current law, right, which we're under right now, but back during the legislative session, you had current law. Well, the 2 years before when they passed legislation, there were some multipliers within the formula that increased, not the basic allotment, which is the beginning number, but other formulas. And so as the current law did give us a little increase because of what they did in previous legislation. But all our projected runs were current law versus this bill, current law versus that bill. Then, as they do in the biennium, you project 23, 24, but also 24, 25. So when you start looking at, there was a column over here that would say, this is how much more this bill is than current law. And then over here in the second year, this is how much this is than current law. Well, if you don't know what they're telling you, it makes it look like that you're getting, say, 2.1 million, and then this year you might get 200,000. It makes you think that. But what it's doing is it's a comparison to current law of the 22-23 current law, meaning if this bill passes, you get this in the first year, and then in the second year, this amount would be more than this amount over here. It skips a column. So
that 200 would have been the first column plus the 200 to get to that.
Correct. So what it would happen is it actually shows that in the second year, we would get an increase between $200,000 and $300,000 in the second year if everything stayed apples. Now, one of the things that we found in the projection is you can see from our historical numbers of enrollment, you can see based on the years that TA is asking about us, our student enrollment was doing this. And so what they've done is for 23-24, they projected us to lose another, say, 10% in kids. And then for 24-25, they projected us to lose 10% more on that. So in that second year, Mr. Shane's talking about it, if you go and it's embedded in the numbers, but you can see our ADA has gone down. So a lot of the law, so meaning we'll get more than 200 to 300,000 because they took our ADA and went down.
And now since we revised it, they see that we plateaued or possibly going up a little.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So meaning when the state does that, they just pull your PEMS data, right? It's your PEMS data, and if you're showing for 4 years that you're losing kids, they project it that way. It's a trend. Right. It's a trend. They project it that way. Luckily enough, we've balanced it. So over the last several years, when we talked about enrollment and we got to get kids, you can see we're back to where we were. It's a 1.3 to $1.9 million difference in funding based on the kids that are on that sheet. So very important to keep track of where we're at.
The only thing I asked Julie was to try to get hold of Mo and Casey and see if they have some idea what next year's number will be, to be sure that we don't use all this money and we are short based off their projections. Because next year we hope to give another raise or whatever. So they didn't call her back today, but so she can report back. And if it is, then we may have to make some massages to this or whatever. But it's appearing from what Mr. Galloway was saying tonight that that's not going to be the case. Questions, comments? With that, I make a motion, we approve the amendment to the 23-24 district budget.
I'll second.
Second by Jackie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Next is approve the ordinance adopting the 23 tax rate.
Okay, so I gave y'all a packet, the front of it is with the blue on it. Okay, so this right here is really something we have to do for our first report. We have to discuss our property values. And so I kind of gave you a historical 22, 23, 24 on what property values were. So you can see that on the 24, it's about almost over $200,000, $200 million more in property values than were projected for 23. We all know this just because of the increase that the state made the county do to increase your property values. The number on the 2.2 that you see in 24, that also is with a $100,000 exemption. If you look, the next two pages, you'll see I put in there just the certified appraisal values from the county. They gave us both, current and one with 100,000. I wanted for you to see both of them because from what Mo Casey was telling me, they really haven't said what you really needed to say you agreed with. So we're putting both in because the 100,000 really won't become effective until the election in November.
It has to pass.
It has to pass, and so we were presenting both of them.
So we'd go from 2,500,000 down to 2,200,000?
Yes.
Or 2,600,000 to 2,300,000, I guess, when you went on there.
Right. And so with that, of course, with the calculations for our M&O tax rate, we hit the floor of the TA's rate that they give us, so we can't go over. And so it was 0.6692 compared to the 0.8546 that we had last year. And anyway, so it goes down to what they say we will get for state aid, which is a $13,605,944. I also put.
Where were you at on that page? Which page were you looking on there?
I was here just showing the bottom.
Oh, the bottom, okay,
Yes.
okay, with that.
And that'll tie back to our budgeted financials as well. I also gave you a sheet just because today Stephen sent me something showing me that Brazos Court was putting out on their Twitter that they had lowered theirs 18 cents, their tax rate. And so ours was 15.54 this year. But over the last 7 years, we've dropped our tax rate 38.5 cents. So we've had a decrease every year since I went back to 2017.
A third of our tax rate.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there for you to see, just so you would know. And so what we are, and also the other is the INS. Of course, we had to go up on that. We only went up 3 cents, which was quite a bit lower than what our projection.
The projection is at least 12 cents.
Yes, and so this is.
When we were putting the bond out there, we were saying 12 cents.
So it was only 3 cents, which was significant. And so our M&O rate will be 0.66.
It's a little misleading because next year we'll fund some more, so it possibly could go up a hair. It's not gonna go up 12, but it could go up a penny or two more, but probably next year we can fund the rest of it.
Yeah, looking at their projections, it did go up like 5 cents or something for 1 year, but then it starts.
Then it starts going down right after, because of the payment schedule from the refinances we've done, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that left our INS rate at 0.2303, and then our M&O 6692, which gives us a total tax rate of 0.8995, which is a lower tax rate, but they say it is effectively a 2.6 increase because it gives us more money because property values are higher, so it generates more revenue of about 2.6%.
So it's up, but it's not our fault.
But it's not our fault.
Not our fault. I'd like to say, I'd like to reiterate.
It's not our
because
fault.
During the last 4 or 5 months when tax values came out, it was thrown out that we need to do more about our taxes. Well, 15.5 cents is a pretty big decrease. I mean, 16% to try to help out in this thing. So the rest is out of our hands, what the county does with people's.
Well, that's it. They raise it, we lower it. It's a money in, money out deal, right? I mean,
We can only control one part of that.
That's right. We
Well,
don't have the whole
If you
picture.
remember, like a couple of board meetings ago where we had to give Brazoria County the right to appeal, and it was because it's not even really Brazoria County, it's the state telling them, you're not within the range we want you to be and you have to increase it. And our homeowners were only like 2% under. It was our commercial that was like at 75%, it should have been at 95%. And then you see that with our 313 agreements, you see that they turned around and lowered theirs significantly when that's the ones they should be. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
And I agree, and that's what I told everybody that's complained to me.
Me too.
Is, the state makes it sound like they're doing great things, but they're forcing they're forcing the appraisal districts to do it, so it'd be less money out of their pocket. And so they're trying to look like they're the saints, but they're not as good as they think they project out there. So.
Can we get this on like on the Columbia Brazoria ISD?
I mean,
Facebook page with
also with the good explanation on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great to share that across.
Exactly.
Ms. Stowe will work on that tomorrow.
You will tomorrow. We're going to make sure of that.
Well, we've got to work around that. We've got to work
Have to
around
get
it.
it through the high school page first.
So then we just need to read our statement for the.
So we, the Board of Trustees of Columbia Missouri Independent School District, move that the property tax rate increase by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.8895, which is effectively a 2.6% increase in tax rate. We, the Board of Trustees of Columbia Missouri Independent School District, do hereby levy and/or adopt the tax rates on a $100 valuation of this school district for the tax year 2023 as follows. An ordinance levying a tax rate for Columbia, Missouri Independent School District for the tax year 2023 of 0.6692 for the purpose of maintenance and operations, 0.2303 for the purpose of principal and interest on the debt of the district. 0.8995 will be the total tax rate for the tax year 2023. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So
that carries.
Really though, with the 2.6 that it says, and it is very misleading.
It's very misleading.
It is, but
They're making us look like the bad guy.
you can spin this another way too. Your taxes only went up 2.6%, and you have a bond that's funded,
Yeah.
partially funded.
Our revenues went up 2.6% because the appraisal district's values went up. We had nothing to do with the increase of the revenues that we got because we went down by 15.5% on the tax rate.
But
that's the way I spin it.
Well, but everybody's, but it's not a value, it's a percentage wise.
So and what Julie's talking about, we're at the floor, so this is on the M&O side. We're not allowed to charge less on the M&O side.
Right.
Right? So the state, when you say the floor, the state's telling us you're gonna raise at least that much money.
Yeah.
So now, we're having to put that out there that we're raising more money. However, at the end of the day, we just went through a funding scenario. We get what we get, regardless of whether it's local, state, local. We get what we get. So the 2.06 is not going to us.
No.
Right. And realistically, the other side of it, when you only look at 2.6%, how much of that increase in value came from all the new homes in Bar X, all the new homes in Columbia Lakes, all the other.
That's what I was trying to explain to people as well. Like
district.
All the growth in the district.
The growth has increased our value, not also.
The less that our taxes will be.
Exactly.
I agree 100%. All right. Number 4, consider district safety expenditures.
Mr. Miller,
All right, so you'll have.
do you have a handout of that, or is it attached?
Should be attached.
It's attached in your board.
I think that's fine.
I can get it, maybe.
Well, I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to see it. Okay, everybody, I think's got it up.
All right, so what you see here, these are some safety requests for you. I'll go through them real quickly. So the first thing is the CBI, and Chief, you can pipe in over there if you want to chime in on your things. CBISD police vehicles, he talked about getting the 2 vehicles and getting the graphics, the lights, and the radios. You'll see there that comes to a total of $15,000, $9,000 of it being in supplies, and $6,000 being contracted services. And because he hired another police officer, he had to get another shield and helmet for that officer. So you see that price is $3,900. Last year, we got a critical response map done for Columbia High School. You've heard me talk, especially if you've been in the Safety and Security Committee meetings, about the age of our maps and how outdated they are. So one of the requests was that we get new updated maps that have the graphics gridded out that we can share with our law enforcement or our emergency responders in order to get all 4 of their campuses done. That total has come to a price of $12,100. Of course, we will have to go back in about 2 years and redo the high school. That's a good thing. One of the requests across the campuses is radios. They don't have enough, so here's I had Chief go out and get me a bid for 20 radios. That is a cost of $17,000.
Is that for administrative?
That's for them to distribute on campuses and do with it.
That's administrative campus daily operations?
Daily operations.
Does it tie in with your radios, Chief?
No, sir. No, those are Chief. He has 2-way radios.
Okay.
Stop the Bleed wall mount kits. We do have them in the high school and the junior high. If you've been there, you've seen them mounted. We do have Stop the Bleed kits at the elementary campuses, but they're not in visible places. The teachers are told where they're at in the event something like that happens, but we would like to get wall mount kits. And we understand that probably elementary kids are not going to be the ones that are using those, but at least they're there for the staff and they know where, every staff member knows where they are. Unfortunately, those things are quite pricey. They're about $1,000 a pop. So that's 20 wall mount kits to go into WC, Barrow, and Wild Peach at a cost of about $20,000. However, we can catch them. We can catch them for about $850 every once in a while.
What's the shelf life on one?
Huh?
What's the shelf life on one?
I think the actual, well, the box is good forever.
Right.
I think the actual bandages are good for 5 years. E-Hall Pass, that is a disciplinary tool that they're using at CHS and West Brazos Junior High that they made a request for. That's to monitor kids, student monitoring, holding students accountable coming in and out of class. They can talk more specifically on how it works if you'd like to know. One thing, bullhorns, this is a guess. Josh reached out to several vendors and he kept getting the runaround on bullhorns. I put a number down. I know we need bullhorns. The bullhorns on the old building at the junior high are not working, and the bullhorns at Barrow are not working. We need to get those replaced. That number is just a number that I put down. I'm not anticipating it to be that much. If it is, then I don't see it being that much. That's a made up number. So I just needed something. I needed to put that on there because we've been talking about trying to get that fixed forever. And we need to get it done. The Expedition Max, that's a vehicle to replace the 2 vehicles that we gave to Chief, a 2-for-1 swap. That was about $54,000. Now that's...
Yeah, just so y'all know, Chief got 2 Explorers.
Correct.
Ford Explorers. Getting out there.
And then the last 2 purchases, you heard me talk about that in the safety report, the shatterproof window film for all campuses, and that's through NGS out of Stafford. I did have them come out. They tried to charge me for debuilding. I caught that late and had them take that off the bid, so that saved us about $3,000. I did go out to all the campuses and look at tent, as you suggested, Mr. Sisson. We came up with a different option. We had talked about Wild Peach, and we're looking at possibly doing some graphics on those windows down at Wild Peach. The other windows we looked at were already tinted, and so we decided just to hold off on that. And then the last one, that $30,000, that's that 5-year silent panic alert technology through Quick Alert, and that's a 5-year contract. So we're good for the next 5 years, and that is a requirement by the state. So those last two objects, those last two items that are about $200,000 or $198,143, that's actual grant money. So really what we're asking for is that number at the bottom, that 152.8.
And I did include that in my budget. In the one you just got, the budget amendment, those amounts were included.
All of these? Oh, I was gonna say, because I know you put something in for the vehicle.
I did.
And it's got it in here.
And then right above that is a line item for security. Those two.
I remember seeing that now. Okay. Principals, are y'all happy with what he's gonna put on your campuses, or had input, thoughts? Think so?
Now, if I may chime in, also, about the radios for the campuses, or you talking about other stuff?
That's included in.
Yeah, well, because like I said, my officers part of those radios is my officers can have one to communicate with the principals.
So there you go. So your officer can have one of them.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
So you get 5 for campus, and 1 be for him and 4 be for the staff people?
They can choose, they can use them how they see.
If they choose to do that?
Main thing is one of my officers at the campus has a radio where they can communicate. So if they're out walking around, out and about, instead of calling me, I'm trying to call them, and they can reach them on the radio.
Yeah. So basically, you're not going to have one for every campus, but the officer assigned to the campus will have one to be able to communicate
with the principals at their campus.
Perfect.
At that campus.
Perfect.
And that's adding 20 radios?
20 radios.
How many radios we currently have that's in good working condition?
Not as many as you think we would have. Basically, the high school is the only one that.
Yeah, high school.
I know the junior high has some, but they're all different. These would be coordinated, and everybody would have.
So we really wouldn't be able to use the old ones?
They could if they chose to do so. We would just ask them.
Well, they're not
to,
going to be interchangeable with these
the
that we're
ones
buying.
we have, hopefully we can get them. They're supposed to come out and set up so we can change channels and they can talk between campuses.
Okay.
Possibly.
And the repeaters
are here. We have one up here and we have one down.
And so they should be able to.
Everything's good. Yeah, we had that. Now, they tell us we need to replace them, but you're looking at about $400,000 I got a quote on that a couple years ago, and it's just, right now, it's not feasible right this second. Looking for possible grant money for that.
Well, yeah, and we may need to put it on the radar the next 5 years. I mean, what do you think the life expectancy is on those?
We've had them for, actually, we just replaced the repeater down in Brazoria at the transportation. This one will probably need to be replaced. The one we keep over at WCD will probably need to be replaced before too long. Actually, the entire bus radios, that's another thing.
Yeah, so whenever we do that, it's going to tie in with bus transportation.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I say that's why it's so expensive, because it's tied into bus. We can replace a repeater, it's not that much, but we don't have a need for it right now.
Okay.
And what I'm looking at is, high school should be good. Basically, we're looking at other 4 campuses, so 20 divided by about 5 radios per campus. They can put them where they see fit. So, some of them may not need that many because there's not that many cheap ones down there. So we'll just have to sit down and figure out what's needed per campus. I know WCE may need more than Barrow, etc. We'll just have to sit down and look at that.
At least it's something.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve the district expenditures. It's Julie has in the budget of $152,800.
I'll second.
Second by Ray, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you very much for getting that together.
Sure.
Next is to consider nominating candidate for Missouri County Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Received the information from the appraisal district, so if you have candidates you would like to nominate, now's your chance to do that.
They're just general people, they don't have to have any prior approval.
Well, generally, no.
Because I got a lot of people complaining I'll nominate one and see. See how that works for them.
Yeah. So we have, by I don't know, I forget what the date is this month. But if any of the taxing entities want to nominate somebody, now is the time to do that. And then here in a little bit, you'll get the nominations where we normally cast our votes for the people. So this is the chance for nominations if you know anybody that.
Matt's in Greece. He's gonna be our candidate delegate for next week's convention.
Are you retiring next year? If not, you might be dying next year.
He's gonna be coming back. He's in Greece. I thought he was like working or something.
Yeah,
He
is working.
Yeah, whatever. Part of life.
I don't know of anybody.
So when would we have to do that, like right now?
Well, you have to do it by board. You have to do it by board vote if the board.
Normally we don't every year.
You've never.
Yeah, we never nominate anybody.
We've never nominated. The only thing we've done is, you have to receive a certain amount of votes, and so certain tax entities, sometimes we would make sure that certain people had the vote.
So I guess in some instances, somebody might come in here and say, give us a spiel and say, hey.
Generally, it's one of those situations, you've worked with somebody, you know you're trying to do that.
We'll have a nomination next year. I'm serious. I'm tired of hearing people gripe. This is their chance.
So just table it then.
Yeah.
You should talk to Bert.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh my God.
That's real quick.
I'd nominate Bert.
Do it.
Bert Jones.
Fly the wall for those meetings.
Lauren Jones' brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
He's always fired up about him.
He's listening right now.
Next time,
We can
I will
nominate him. It's
screenplay
his
up for him.
responsibility from there to get
Ask
out
him
of
if he'd be
it.
interested in something like that. Just so we know somebody. Historically, I wouldn't know unless this comes up. How did we get nominated, to be honest with you?
What time is it? 8:19. I'll let him go back and listen to it. I'll find it on there and let him listen to it.
If he's interested, I'd be glad to get the board, see if the board will support him or whatever. So
I'd support him.
But for right now, we'll table this as we don't have anybody.
You need a motion to table? No? Okay.
Next, the consent agenda. Approve budget amendments and donations, we talked about earlier. Approve Red Ribbon Week proclamation. And approve the updated dual credit agreement between Missouri Brazosport College and Columbia, Missouri. I'd like to pull number 3 because I'd like to ask some questions on that one. Would anybody like 1 or 2 pulls? If not, I'll make a motion, we approve 1 and 2.
I'll second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Carries. When I read the stuff on there, it doesn't talk about what we pay, it just, the way I read it, I couldn't find it in there, but it read that they will invoice us up to 8 hours for each student that participates. And if I read it right, then we get an 80% discount, we get a 20% discount based off of current rates. Is that what we pay? Is that?
Essentially, it's changed. At the end of the day, we pay $150 per kid. That's the max that we can charge. And any kid that we have that's on free and reduced lunch goes to college for free. And they also get free textbooks. So the THEC.
That's not in here, it's a side agreement?
Yeah, well, that's coming from THEC. This year, that's new legislation for the colleges that they've capped what local.
Is it the HB 8 or whatever they talk about it?
And so basically what we're paying is essentially $150 a kid.
Okay.
Per class.
Which is half.
We're paying half, but we're paying, we were last year, what we're paying probably, it was 300 and, I don't know, Julie, I know you don't remember, $350 a kid per class. $450 for technical classes, because it's 34-hour classes. So essentially, we're paying $150 per kid, and free and reduced kids go to college.
Okay, like I said, I couldn't see anything about pricing, so I just didn't know how, because when we spoke last night, he said that it was less, and.
Yeah, it's basically half, a little less.
I did, so you're talking technical classes, the way I read that, it had to be, I guess the technical class is considered a dual credit.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like our catalyst kids, our welding kids, our
Okay.
HVAC kids.
Hadn't
all
thought
those.
I've heard
Those are
that.
technical.
That's what-
CTE portion.
Okay.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
because I know that learning frameworks. So a kid told me this week that they couldn't do the dual credit class or college class, because they didn't have 2 openings in their schedule to take learning frameworks.
They don't need.
How does it, when can they take the learning frameworks?
They can take learning frameworks in the summer of their 8th grade year.
But their family has to pay for that, though.
Their family would have to pay for that. They can enroll as a freshman, and if they meet TSI requirements to take learning frameworks as a freshman, meaning they pass the TSI reading test, they can enroll, and we would pay for that class.
In the fall.
In the fall. We do not give freshmen study hall periods simply for credit purposes. Once you become a sophomore, if you take dual credit, then you can have up to 2 study hall classes, but you can get, if you're enrolled in 1 dual credit class, you can have 1 study hall period, meaning we give you a period to work on, because all dual credit's online now. Okay? Unless you want to take it outside of the school day, which we do have a night class over here Wednesday night. We have a speech or learning frameworks, I can't remember. Learning frameworks on Wednesday nights on campus. But everything else is done online. And so freshmen do not get a study hall period. They have to do that class on their own time. Then as you get into the higher academic classes, because basically learning frameworks is completing work. It's not very rigorous, I guess is the word I'm using. It teaches you how to be a college student.
Right.
Basically, because I had a daughter go through it already, and I have a freshman enrolled in that class now. And so it's like doing things like how to get to the library, These are the resources, setting goals, time management. Those of you that have had kids that went through the learning frameworks class, that's what that class is. And so once they become sophomores and they say, let's say usually the general path is a kid takes learning framework and the next class they take is speech. That's a good second class for them. In the fall, they could choose to not, or they could take a study hall class, meaning they now have a place where they can go on campus, sit down in a quiet spot, and have time to work on their college class. If they take 2 classes, then they could have up to 2 study halls. They could be in speech and, say, government or Texas government. But in order to keep the 2 study halls, you have to be enrolled in 2 college classes per semester. And then they get to their sophomore year. And it also provides more opportunities for, quote, your kids that are really looking to, how can I put this? Kids that GPA is very important to. It gives them more opportunities to take weighted classes, doing it that way. They're locked in their freshman year. All freshmen are going to take 4 weighted and 4 non-weighted classes. You get to your junior year or your sophomore year, usually it's 4 and 4, maybe 5 and 3. Yeah. But by taking more dual credit classes, it saves families money when they send their kids to school, especially if they become core complete, which poses its whole another set of problems when they get to college that we're finding out. But it's good for family. They're not overburdened with that.
So if they take it, if they sign up for it and it's online, they can do it at night?
Do it at night, do it in the morning, do it on the weekends. But if they're sophomores and they're taking it, they'll have a study hall assigned to it. During the school day. Yeah. The freshmen that are overachievers, because all freshmen come in on the same level, we don't provide study hall courses. So if they're taking learning frameworks as a freshman, they're having to do it on their own time.
Okay.
Did it answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
I was confused with your question.
The kid told me that I asked if they were doing dual credit and were getting some college classes in, because I knew it would benefit their family and him as well. And he was like, no ma'am, I didn't have it in my schedule. I didn't have 2 places available to take learning frameworks and a class.
He didn't have 2 places, is that what you said?
Yeah, and then his mother tried to explain it to me. I needed clarification.
Now, it could be.
It's not as simple as
for
we
us
think
to,
it is.
Right, for us to pay for it, kids have to qualify, meaning they have to be on grade level, credits, pass certain things. I mean.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah, there might be a little more to it than that.
So I just want to clarify the question Mr. Champagne was asking about the 80%. So if you'll remember from a couple of years ago, our superintendent CEO meeting with Brazos-Sport College, it's a discussion about what's good for the school district, what's good for the college, and their big push is to keep local kids at BC, to finish at BC and then go up. And so this agreement, when we started paying for dual credit, if you'll remember that normal, not the catalyst, but the normal dual credit, that original agreement was that to partner in the school districts funded up front, the college would incur 20% of the cost and bill us 80% of the cost. So that's why it was a partnership to get this going. And so that's why the 80%.
Okay. Well, I was just looking for numbers.
Yeah. And so,
because I was just curious what it cost us.
Right. And so one of the things that Mr. Miller's talking about, they now have a price that they can charge in taxing district students and outside of taxing districts. And so our rate for our kids is different than what it would be for a kid that lives in Lake Jackson.
Yeah, we're out.
Right. We're out of district.
But it's the dollar amount you said.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
165, I lied. I said 150.
It's 165.
165 per 3-hour course.
Can't trust you anymore.
Couldn't remember off the top of my head.
Man.
We expect to spend half the amount of money we spent on tuition last year. Last year we spent around $100,000 in tuition. This year we're expecting to spend half of that. Now the good thing is our enrollment's gone up, so but still, even with the uptick in enrollment, we don't anticipate that it's going to hit us like it did last year.
And so you kind of made a comment, and someone actually talking at work today, they were talking about dual credit in high school. I was asking if their child was doing it. They said no. Are students having a hard time transferring those credits to major universities when they go?
It depends. For the most part, here's the thing. Here's what they don't tell you. Everybody says dual credit, dual credit, dual credit. And a lot of people here at college, y'all had kids had college credits that went. If you go to a public school and your core complete, which is 42 hours, they have to take them. So if you're core complete and you meet these requirements, it doesn't matter.
That's all your English and sciences.
Yeah, that's all your basic two, yeah. They have to take them. If you have 30 hours, let's just say you took 10 classes, you walk in with 30 hours, because you're not core complete, now they can sit down and say, okay, so we're going to count this, we're going to count this. This really doesn't fit in your degree plan, so we're going to kind of set that one over here. And if you go to private school, they don't have to take any of them. I know, Becky, I know your daughter went to private school. I know Keegan went to private school. I didn't know if they accepted any of their credit.
Yeah, they did.
It's just, with the private schools, it's dependent on the school.
The bigger the university you go to, UT, A&M, if you're trying to get into major business, those kind of stuff, they're going to tell you, but we want this chemistry, not that chemistry, right? It still counts, but you count.
It's more of an elective.
And that's the game the colleges are playing. Like, for example, I've discovered this, and I've shared it with people, is that, if you're an engineer, you go to A&M or Texas, you're trying to get into Mays or the Combs Business School, Combs, or whatever it is, or the engineering schools, and you've got core complete here, and you took biology and chemistry. Well, they're going to get you get on campus. Well, if you read the fine line, in order to be in those majors, you have to take those classes on that campus. So they may move to the side and say, okay, that's an elective, we'll count over here, but at the end of the day, you're taking biology and chemistry on their campus because that's a requirement of that.
So they're not necessarily losing the credits, they may be elective credits, because every degree has a certain amount of electives on it.
Like learning frameworks, most people accept that because everybody has, that's something that every college university's gone to, is how to, as a freshman, they try to teach you how to be a good college student. So we see that one counting. English 1 and English 1301, English 1302, government, U.S. histories, those are your 5 safe ones. And a fine art, usually they all win.
As an example, while we're talking about this, why do we pay for it? Well, we want kids to be successful, but we also get rated on this. And so one of the things you've seen is this last week, TEA announced that accountability is not coming out. And the biggest thing, one of the changes in this is our college and career readiness. This is our CCMR. So, Mr. Miller, tell them what it takes for them to meet CCMR requirements.
Well, there's like 9 different steps, but the ones that count for us so TSI, SAT, ACT, you have to pass both the reading and the math. If you do meet one of those requirements, you meet CCMR. Our kids can pass TSI reading. They're not very successful in the math. Usually your top 10%, top 15% will pass both sections of the SAT, ACT. Industry certifications, which is what we really hammered for years, but they've changed the rules on that, of course, right? Because you were good at it. Changed the rules. And so they've changed the certifications to make it harder. And then there's a percentage of certifications that they'll only count towards your CCMR, which is garbage, but whatever. And then the big one and then of course dual credit. Now, he gets to listen to me vent about this. I have a problem. A dual credit class should be a dual credit class, right? So the dual credit rules say this: if you take a dual credit English class or a dual credit math class and you're successful, or either or, so 3 hours, you're automatically CCMR. Well, it just so happens that Learning Frameworks credits as an English college class. So any kid that takes Learning Frameworks is automatically CCMR, which is great for us. A kid that takes 2 semesters of in order for any other kid that takes dual credit, they have to have 9 hours. So a kid that takes 2 semesters of U.S. history, and those are the only 2 classes that he took, it's only 6 hours, he's not a CCMR kid. A kid that takes 2 welding classes, he's not a CCMR kid because that's only 8 hours. He has to have 9. So to me, a college class is a college class. I mean, a lot of kids do more writing in history than they do in English.
So you need them to learn frameworks.
I
thought you had to take the learning frameworks to take any of those other classes.
You do.
They may take it on their own.
Not welding. Not any technical class.
Oh, okay.
So those kids have to take 3 classes.
Gotcha.
So usually we get those kids in for junior, and a lot of those kids do ultimately. If they make it through the first year, they'll make it through the second year. So all your technical kids.
Thank you.
So to meet criteria for CCMR.
But to take a dual credit class, you have to meet TSI requirements.
Right.
That's the other. Now, I did find out that we have the authority for Learning Frameworks to allow kids to take them. We've just kind of steadfastly said that you've got to meet the requirements, but we can. I even told Mr. Galloway, there's a way we can play this game and we can have 100%, we can make Learning Frameworks for graduation requirements.
Yeah, no joke.
And then, we have people on our campus that have master's degrees in educational administration that we can actually have teachers on campus face to face. And so now, that's easy, 100% CCMR. You're going to be an A every year just based on your CCMR scores. So, but they'll change the rules again. And we're stuck with it, teaching Learning Frameworks to everybody.
So up until now, the percentage is 66% of the graduates of the class to meet CCMR. The new guidelines right now, as established that are supposed to go in effect, is that it goes from 66 to 80% of the class. Yeah. And that, I mean, that jump, it is huge. And so, we've told you for years that when that CCMR gets calculated, we've done such a good job with that. At that 66%, it raises the accountability of the high school, right, from a C to a B, and from the district from a C to a B. And now, this change in legislation, what's going to happen is you can see it take us from a C to a D. Just that one little switch, and it would have nothing to do with EOC testing at the high school.
So you bring that next month for next year's graduation plan?
I can tell you right now, the seniors who meet CCMR, I have all that data. I track that data nonstop. The thing is you run into the thing. You have a lot of the kids that get certified are the same kids that take dual credit, or the same kids that take. If you pass an AP test, that's a lot of the kids are the same kids. You have a group of kids that are just hardworking kids that are going to graduate, but none of that stuff interests them.
Sure,
You know,
100%.
they're gonna go work at the plants and they're gonna do a great job, and CCMR is not important. That's not important to them, you know? We just gotta figure out a way, you know, it is important that if they're gonna go to the plant, they have an NCCR core certification. You know, or, you know, just we gotta find the niche for those kids, because there's a good group of kids that we just can't figure out. 66%, around 67, 60, we usually run 65% of the student class that get CCMR. It's that 35%, they're tough. 35 is tough to figure out, so. I don't know.
Good thing is you won't get bored over the next year or so. Give you some challenges.
I gave you all a solution.
I like it. That's what I said. You bring it next month or next year.
Or could you offer that as a freshman class?
You could. I wouldn't.
No.
If you're gonna do it, you know, the other problem with that class, you could, but you'd have to make it a year-long class.
So one of the
Yeah,
things
that's
we've actually talked about is that we have in our degree plan, we have health and speech, financial math,
Or no, money matters.
money matters, or we could add this in place. 1, 2, or 3 meets that 1 hour.
Yeah, the problem is learning frameworks is a half credit. We don't have anything to have
Yeah,
wrong.
we'd have to figure that out.
That's the part we'd have to figure out. Half credits no longer basically exist in high school anymore.
So do we offer speech at the high school?
Yes.
It's on the books, but if you want speech, it's through dual credit only. Simply
But if
because,
you couldn't take learning frameworks, that's off the table.
well, you could. You'd have to get, that's what he's saying, we'd have to get creative.
Yeah.
We'd have to bring it back
Back
to
to learning
the table.
frameworks
We'd have to
and the
bring
problems
the
it
speech
causes.
back to back up learning framework.
Well, then it's saying that
Everybody
you
takes
can't
what
take
matters
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody loves money matters.
And I think that's a good
And you brought
They
money,
take it.
because of you, we take Money Matters. You brought Money Matters to us. You lobbied for that.
I did.
Yeah.
How many years though?
Step a little taller.
And it was a good decision.
So I can retire.
No.
Well, like I said, I'll make a motion, we approve the updated dual credit agreement with Missouri Reservoir College in Columbus, Nebraska. Cool.
I'll second it.
Make well then, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Anything else? Take it a while, go with it. Okay. We will adjourn to closed session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, the Opens Meeting Act, Section 551.074, to consider the employment of professional personnel, discuss the resignation and retirement of professional personnel. We'll reconvene in an open meeting.